think the ball is in President Biden's court to calm the Democrats and show them a path forward. I think that's where he's failing.
That's State Representative LaShawn Ford, who I chatted with yesterday. He is a delegate for President Joe Biden heading to the Democratic National Convention in Chicago this August. All indication is we at the Center Square will be on the ground reporting what happens at the convention in Chicago. But we'll also be on the ground next week at the Republican National Convention. So like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with Illinois in Focus Daily, only on America's Talking Network. All right. Let's get to this. So obviously a lot of questions about the physical fitness and mental fitness of President Joe Biden heading into the November election. And there's been all kinds of different speculation about who could possibly, step up and fill in the tickets if it's not Kamala Harris and such. And all of this after the debate performance from a Thursday ago. And a lot of review of that was it was a bad night, even the president saying such. You've got the Republican presumptive nominee, Donald Trump, the former Republican president, who is capitalizing on this in a way, holding a limited media availability, but he does have a rally coming up, and it's one of the first big events that Trump's held since really the media has been focused on Biden's health. And even yesterday, a pretty contentious White House press briefing with the White House press secretary having to field questions about the possibility of the president being reviewed for Parkinson's, which the White House says he's had 3 neurological exams, 1 each year since he's been in office. But with all of the questions, there's been Democrats coming out saying that Biden should step aside. I went to a delegate, a Democrat from Chicago, State Representative LaShawn Ford, chatted with him yesterday, and his message was that the Democratic Party needs to be united.
Going in, I want more than anything for the Democrats to win. The goal should be for Democrats to be united for victory in November. We need to win the White House, we need to win the House and the Senate. That's what I'm working hard for. And the only way we're going to do that is be united as Democrats. And if we feel that there are reasons that may cause problems for us to win in November, we should fight behind the scenes and not in public to show that we're not united.
So again, LaShawn Ford really giving his perspective as a Democrat who sees all of this playing out. And what he's seeing is other Democrats, including Illinois' Mike Quigley, a U.S. congressman from Lakeview. He went on MSNBC on Friday and had this to say.
I say, Mr. President, your legacy is set. We owe you the greatest debt of gratitude. The only thing that you can do now to cement that for all time and prevent utter catastrophe is to step down and let someone else do this. Because I think day one, we're back in a dogfight. All of a sudden, all the things we're talking about with President Biden, we've got a lot more we can talk about with Trump.
So clearly the message there being that the continued focus on Biden's mental health and whether or not he's going to stay in the race is taking away attention from the Democrats being able to have media attack former President Trump. But Ford yesterday reacting to Quigley's comments and this, as he called it, a chorus of Democrats.
Well, I would say, my thought is I think that with Mike Quigley joining a chorus of Democrats calling for Biden to step down, I think it weakens Democrats. It would be great if all of our displeasures with the president would be conveyed to him, and we deal with it that way. But I think ultimately the responsibility lies with the president. It's his job to unify the party, and he's failing not only to unify the party, but to rebound from the horrible debate. And so I think the ball is in President Biden's court to calm the Democrats and show them a path forward. I think that's where he's failing at. I'm going to stick with the Democrats on this, the united Democrats behind Biden and Harris.
But I also asked Ford about what his constituents are saying. He's in a unique spot. He's not just a delegate for a political party, but he's also a elected state representative. So he's got constituents he's regularly talking with in both the public and political space. And I asked him what his constituents are saying about this whole situation and how the president's fitness has become crucial to the ongoing political conversations.
I mean, everyone has the same concern about Biden's fitness. Everyone. I don't think Democrats, Republicans, Independents, everyone is concerned about his fitness. And my concern is that we're not united to win, because regardless to who the nominee is, our goal should be to win in November. And so I keep reminding people that the Biden-Harris ticket is our best shot to beat Trump if we're going to beat him.
So again, State Representative LaShawn Ford sharing his thoughts about this entire situation. Yesterday, you had President Joe Biden on MSNBC's Morning Joe calling in, talking about how he's, again, staying in the race. This also follows a letter that the president sent to Democrats, essentially saying that he's staying in the race, that it would be antithetical to democracy if they discarded the popular vote in the Democratic primary. He says he has over 80% of the delegates. He's not giving them up. He also went on to talk about how all of this distraction takes away from, targeting Trump politically. But here's the president on Morning Joe yesterday.
Remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But any of these guys don't think I should run against me. Go ahead, announce the president. Challenge me in the convention.
And that would essentially mean a contested convention, something that Ford said would be troubling for the Democrats heading into November.
I'm a pledged delegate for Biden. Yes. And there's no reason for me to withdraw, because if all else fails, we still could have Kamala Harris be the nominee. So, and I think that even with a Harris nomination, we're still going to need people to unite behind Harris in its full spectrum. Even if we saw a governor of a state decide that they want to run, well, that's just one governor. Who says that governor is going to get the other governors to support them when some of the opposing governors may have ambition too? We know there's a few governors right now that would like to be president. So let's say we move President Biden out the way and they push Vice President Harris out the way. We're going to be divided as a party there, because now you have black people that may be unhappy with the fact that you pushed a Kamala Harris out the way for possibly a white man. Then, so we have a better shot at uniting behind a Biden-Harris ticket, because no one else is going to make it a sure thing. Let's just use J.B. Pritzker. If J.B. Pritzker decides to run, will that mean that the California governor doesn't want to run? Would that mean that other governors wouldn't want to run? I think that we still will have that problem. Our greatest chance right now is to unite and not be divided over the current situation that we have.
Again, that's Chicago State Representative LaShawn Ford. Chatted with him yesterday. I imagine we'll have more conversations with him about a variety of other things as well, especially heading into the August convention with the Democratic National Committee. They'll be in Chicago. All indication is we at the Center Square will be on the ground, credentialed to cover that for you. Meaning here with Illinois in Focus Daily, we will be bringing you those daily recaps of the day before. So like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Join us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily and America's Talking Network. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson saying that the violence in the streets is from generations of disinvestment, and he even points some of the blame at Richard Nixon. Plus, you've got him talking about a political party that he says is shielding the gun industry. All of this after headlines over the holiday weekend. Since July 4th, more than 100 people shot, 19 killed. And police and officials yesterday holding a news conference to react to that. But we'll obviously take a look at that and some other issues around the context of what's going on there. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you for taking time. Again, the headlines out of Chicago, more than 100 shot, and you had 19 killed. That was by yesterday morning from July 4th to July 8th in the early morning hours. Here is Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson yesterday talking about the headlines and why they're holding a news conference to address violence.
We are standing here today talking about a violent weekend because of generations of disinvestment and deep disenfranchisement in the exact communities where so much of the violence is taking place. But we are here to say emphatically that this is enough. It's enough. When this reckless violence ravages across our city at this magnitude, we are losing a piece of the soul of Chicago. And it deeply pains me to admit that, but it is true.
And again, the mayor, speaking in the aftermath of these headlines and how tragic and just horrible they are. And if you do have time, you might want to go watch some of the entirety of that news conference. You can find it on the City of Chicago and the police department's Facebook page, for instance. But it's clearly not for the faint of heart to hear some of the details of these violent crimes. But the mayor goes on to talk about how it's personal to him.
Yeah, it is personal. Black death has been unfortunately accepted in this country for a very long time. We had a chance 60 years ago to get at the root causes, and people mocked President Johnson. And we ended up with Richard Nixon.
So that comment there is something I think is getting a lot of attention, and even the attention of the Richard Nixon Foundation, which posted on X. Mayor Johnson's reference to President Nixon is gratuitous, and the facts are not on his side in his characterization of Richard Nixon and the Nixon administration's civil rights record. It goes on with a string here, a thread. He says in 1971, the Nixon administration developed a plan to carry out the 1954 SCOTUS decision in Brown v. Board of Education to desegregate all schools in the South. Goes on with more stats and figures from various years throughout the Nixon efforts. From 69 to 72, federal funding for civil rights programs grew from 75 million to more than 600 million, the equivalent of more than 3.4 billion today. And continues on with thread after thread. So clearly, the Chicago mayor's reference there getting a lot of attention, again, from even the likes of the Richard Nixon Foundation.
Yeah, it is personal. Black death has been unfortunately accepted in this country for a very long time. We had a chance 60 years ago to get at the root causes, and people mocked President Johnson. And we ended up with Richard Nixon.
So fascinating to see how the mayor responds to questions about, the root causes here and just exactly how far he goes. But he also went on to blame a political party, he says, is shielding the gun industry.
The fact that it's so easy to get guns in the city of Chicago and cities across America, to me, that's the crime. You have an entire political party that is protecting a lobbyist entity to make sure that illegal guns can flow through the streets of places like Chicago and Baltimore, Miami, Los Angeles. To me, that is criminal. It should be brought up on charges.
So he talks about how, the gun lobby, I guess, is how you can characterize what his focus of attention was there, bringing them up on charges. But ultimately, the mayor did get around to talking about accountability for the violent criminals on the streets of Chicago, leading to the headlines of 100 shot and 19 killed. Here's the mayor.
But I will not stand idly by. We will not be passive in this moment. We need to ensure that we are holding every single individual accountable for the pain and trauma and the torment that they have caused in this city. And there will be consequences. There will be consequences for the violence. We will not let criminal activity ruin and harm our city.
So how exactly are they going to do that? It wasn't just the mayor talking yesterday. You also had Police Superintendent Larry Snelling address the media. Snelling gave some really grim details of some of the various violent crimes that have been happening in the city since this past weekend. But he also talked about how sometimes people look at policing, and is that the problem?
When we look at what happened this weekend, we always like to say that it's a police issue. This is a societal issue. The police cannot be in everybody's backyard. They cannot be in everyone's home. They cannot invade every single gathering where there's a possibility that someone may show up with a gun. Everything that we do as a police department is based on reasonable suspicion to investigate or probable cause for an arrest. So what we need to look at is the responsibility of everyone.
And I would imagine everyone's community members, family members, and the like. And police also saying that they make arrests when they can, and the public's help in that really does drive those investigations. But Snelling also repeating time and again that they have to go after the bad actors and get the state's attorney to file those charges. Comptroller Susana Mendoza, a prominent Democrat in Illinois, she posted she agrees with Superintendent Snelling. Quote, "We have to really stop and think about the mindset of someone who will shoot a child, a helpless child, an unarmed mother, and think that that's okay and go about their days," he said. She goes on to say that those people have to be taken off the streets. They have to be put away. If we're not doing that, then we're failing other families. So Comptroller Susana Mendoza agreeing with the sentiments that these bad actors have to be dealt with by the state's attorney's office more aggressively. So just some of the things happening in Chicago. Controversial comments obviously making the rounds and people commenting on that. And we'll continue to follow it and maybe hear some reaction from Republicans as to the mayor seeming to point at Republicans, which, by the way, I mean, there hasn't been a Republican administration in Chicago for decades, generations, some would say. I don't have the exact date, but it's been a long time. So it is Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us each and every weekday morning as we give you the headlines to keep you plugged in and informed. And we'll see you back here with America's Talking Network and Illinois in Focus Daily.